Maybe your little ensemble here can be ready when we finish, that you start up again. However, whoever, the three of you, your support team behind you or whatever. Krishna, Krishna. Put away the camera. Put away the camera. Put away the camera. Thank you. I get nervous when you do stuff like that. Looks like everybody knows everybody almost. There's a few people here who I don't recognize. Are you very new back here? No? You've been around for some time. Okay. Okay. It's good to know if anybody doesn't need an introduction to ABC. But you're okay. Okay. Let us begin with offering our obeisances, pranam mantra to Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Desatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Where's your 10-year-old friend? She's not here yet? She's going to come later? You don't have any signal between one another, huh? She always has a question at the end. Her lights are on. So a little background, because I see some faces that were with us in earlier sessions. This is part 3 of a 3-part series. This comes in the very beginning part of Uddhava Gita. And the topic, well, the circumstance is the intimacy that Uddhava has with Krishna. Krishna didn't announce anything. He just understood the mind and the heart of Krishna, that Krishna is going to leave. They're in Dwarka together. For years together, Uddhava has been constantly by his side, deeply attached, and Krishna is going to leave. So a number of things he says, we heard in a morning class, paraphrased, take me with you. And Krishna hears, and Krishna understands his affection. And then there's a series of verses where Krishna is reflecting on the circumstance and decides the following 2 things. One, I gave my association here, there, elsewhere, all over the structure of the universe, except for one place, Badrikashram. There's one place I didn't go and give my association to Narayan Rishi and their associates in Badrikashram. And so I want my dear associate, that you're not different than me. That's how Krishna says, you go and represent me as an emissary and carry my message to the associates of Naranarayan Rishi. Thank you very much. You stay behind. I'm going to leave and leave you behind. No, no, no. Yes, yes, yes. And so that you'll be able to feel my presence, even I'm not physically absent or I'm not physically present with you or personally present. I'll be personally present with you in another way by your constant remembrance of me, which is a nice teaching. How to pacify the feelings of separation by constant remembrance of Krishna, or one can say, separation intensifies emotion, love and separation, and love and meeting. So it's a love and separation message. And Krishna then says, in order to help you understand how you can be always mindful of me, I'm going to tell you a nice story or an historical incident where our predecessor, King Yadu, had this encounter with an Avaduta Brahmana. And some of you, maybe most of you, maybe all of you, received this little document that gives evidence from second canto, chapter 7, and from the end of this whole section, chapter 20, chapter 9 of canto 11, where it's disclosed that this Avaduta Brahmana is none other than Dattatreya. And Dattatreya is an avatar of Vishnu, son of Atri Muni. So Atri had a son named Datta and Dattatreya, name of his father Atreya, Dattatreya. And the beginning of the exchange between the two doesn't give the circumstance how he ended up with Dattatreya, but King Yadu was with him and asked basically 3 questions. How did you attain this status that you have? There's no indication at that stage that he accepts that he's and understands that he's an avatar of Vishnu. But how did you attain this state of consciousness? And second question, what's that happiness that you experience all the time, very, very joyful and radiant? And the third is, why are you behaving like a little boy? You're in the Avaduta stage. Circumstance doesn't mean anything to you. You're behaving out of the status of a mature adult. And so, why is that? What's going on? Just very open-ended questions. And then the reply comes. So this is the 24 Guru. How did I get to this stage? I learned from 24 gurus. And, we've been discussing parts 1 and 2. This is now part 3. It's quite unconventional that the convention is one hears from a guru, one person, or maybe plural persons that have heard in disciplic succession, and so the message in disciplic succession that's become realized is now passed on through disciplic succession to the student. So this is not one of those. At least we don't have any evidence of that. Rather, it's this Brahmana, has learned from 24 different gurus. So that's the background. And we've already covered up through Guru number 16, and we're finishing. We're going to complete the rest of the gurus of his 24. And you can do anything that you want with these slides. There's 3 slides. Each one you can just cut and paste a picture and put it on your wall, or do what you want to do with it. but it's a pictorial mini summary of these 24 gurus. And you can see from the first page, the starting point is the elements, the earth itself, and earth, water, fire, air, ether, the wind, etc., and lessons in life through these different features of the material manifestation. We've had lengthy discussion about how Krishna does things, that the teaching lessons is behind the lesson is him, and through the medium of some manifestation, he can teach lessons. He teaches lessons, and those that have the receiver on, they can understand those messages from Krishna. So there's many layers of what's going on. He's an avatar Vishnu, explaining about how to feel connected to Vishnu through scenes of nature or situations of nature. It's quite interesting that it comes, in part, we discussed this, it comes after Canto 10. Canto 11 comes after Canto 10. And Canto 10 is Krishna. And then comes the Avaduta Brahman and many other interesting things. But so in Uddhava, intimately involved with Krishna in Canto 10, is now in a situation where Krishna is going to leave and he wants to go with Krishna. So the pastime unfolds in the following manner. Krishna indicates, I'm going to leave and leave you behind, but soon you'll join me after. But I have some service for you, and the service includes love and separation, and carrying my message to the Narayana Rishi and the associates in the Himalayas. Coming up here was like coming to the Himalayas. I don't know how you got all these people here in the middle of the Himalayas. You got a lot of friends. I guess that's it, huh? Make friendship and people will come. Devotee friends. So this is the first of 3 slides. This is indicating what we've already covered. And then the python, the pigeon, the sun, the moon. Now, we didn't get so far yet to the soul, the body, and that's the moon analogy. So you can enjoy looking at these charts and sorting out, remembering, the essence of the messages. And then here's the final part. We did hear some of this already. The moth, the bee, the deer, the distracted senses. So a little repeat. Bees are being compared to householders. The honey of the bees is the earnings and wealth of the bees, and the beneficiary is somebody else besides the bees. Beekeeper. The other people are beneficiaries of the householder's wealth. That is, other ashrams. And then the charity of the householder brings that which the householder has gathered to those who are maintained by the householders. And so it's it's multiple layers of instruction. How to use the wealth that you've accumulated in a proper way. And it's not necessarily that you have a project of accumulation of wealth. You have the occupation of a bee. You do what bees do. You go get the pollen from the flowers and together this and that, and there's a honey and there's honeycomb, and bee collectors take the honey and sell it or distribute it. So those that are the lesson is the distribution of wealth. So that's a place where we ended up, part 2. And now we're beginning the lesson of Pingala. This is where we ended up. Remember this little preamble to learning about Pingala. Now, in this painting, or not painting, it's artificial intelligence art creation, but they're up in a mountain somewhere, and there's King Yadu, folded palms before the Avadhuta Brahmana. So the Avadhuta Brahmana is continuing lesson 17. And this is a little, for those of you that haven't heard all of this yet, this is just a mini summary. And there's some contemplation, no action yet, of taking this section of the Bhagavatam and expanding it. So this isn't expanded, this is just a mini extract of the lesson, something from commentary, something that the Avadhuta Brahmana says to King. So it's a summary. So here we go. Oh, son of kings! Previously in the city of Videha, there dwelled a prostitute named Pingala. Now please hear what I have learned from that lady. And this is a long one. There's many passages collected with this. So there she is, depicted on the left side. Once that prostitute, desiring to bring a lover into her house, stood outside in the doorway at night, showing her beautiful form. And nobody stopped. This prostitute was very anxious to get money. And as she stood on the street at night, she studied all the men who were passing by, thinking, "Oh, this one surely has money. I know he can pay the price." Not a nice profession. As many men passed by her house, Pingala, who lived by prostitution, thought, "Maybe this rich one will come and give me lots of money." Thus, with vain hope, she remained leaning against the doorway and could not go to sleep. Out of anxiety, she would sometimes walk out on the street. Sometimes she went back into her house. In this way, the midnight arrived. Now she looks a little distressed. The prostitute, who intensely desired money, gradually became morose, and her face dried up. Because of that worry for money, she began to feel great detachment from her situation, and happiness arose in her mind. The lesson is, besides don't be a prostitute, sometimes there's fruitive desires that are frustrated, and that in that frustration there's a possibility that detachment will arise. Vishwanath writes, detachment is the sword for cutting the ropes produced by hopes for material enjoyment. So they consistently in these teachings, these lessons of Avadhuta Brahmana, is the marginal position of living entity, wavering between attachment to Krishna and attachment to sense gratification. And there may be some, transition this way or transition that way, but it's the marginal position of the living entity. External energy or internal energy, what's your choice? And in the beginning stage, the internal energy or spiritual energy option arises commonly, not always, but arises from frustration. I didn't achieve the happiness I was anticipating. At least that's the picture that's portrayed commonly. Vairagya, or that kind of detachment, is a result of frustration of unfulfilled hopes for happiness. Just as a human being who is bereft of spiritual knowledge never desires to give up his false sense of proprietorship, this man seems to have a lot of wealth. Similarly, a person who has not developed detachment never desires to give up the bondage of the material body. So there he's clutching not his material body, but he's clutching stuff. And stuff that's been accumulated however he got stuff. And he seemed very detached to his stuff. And one who has that attachment to stuff doesn't want to give it up, because that's my happiness, until the realization comes, I'm not experiencing happiness, even I've got stuff. The more one tries to enjoy the material world, the more one's illusion increases. Standard principle. This is the classic. What's the negative emotion terminology? Self, bringing misery to oneself. So Prabhupada said like this: "You Western, not just Western, but you Western people, you enjoy climbing a tree, going out on the branch of the tree, and start to saw the branch of the tree till you hear the branch crack, and then you run for the trunk of the tree. Foolish." So, and the more one tries to be the enjoyer of the place where there's no enjoyment, illusion increases, frustration also increases. Now, please hear from me the song sung by the prostitute in that situation. So here's her song. Just see how greatly illusioned I am, because I cannot control my mind. Just like a fool, I desire lusty pleasure from an insignificant man. I have given up the eternal Lord situated within me, Ramanam, who accepts love, and gives wealth. Instead, foolishly I've been serving insignificant men who give dissatisfaction, sorrow, fear, worry, lamentation, and delusion. This fellow looks like he's yelling at her. And there's super soul inside the heart who doesn't do any of that stuff. Instead, I'm serving that foolish man or foolish men like that person. This material body is like a house in which I, the soul, am living. It's a Bhagavad Gita lesson. Deha and Dehi. The occupier of the Deha is the Dehi. I'm the soul inside this house. The bones forming my spine, ribs, arms, and legs are like beams, cross beams, and pillars of the house. The whole structure, which is full of stool and urine, lovely, is covered by skin, hair, and nails. The 9 doors leading into this body are constantly excreting foul substances. This is a little bit elaboration, but the same principle of Bhagavad Gita. How astonishing it is that I thought that this disgusting body was enjoyable and fit for exchanging love. Who except me would be dedicated to this body? Well, lots of people are dedicated. Pingla now decides. So she's becoming a little detached, and in that detachment, her intelligence is working a little better. The Supreme Lord is absolutely the dearest one for all living beings. Therefore, I will now pay the price of complete surrender, and thus, purchasing the Lord, I will enjoy with him. Following the example of Lakshmi Devi. So there's Lakshmi massaging the feet of Narayana. And I want to be in a position like that instead of serving the temporary. In this material world, everyone is pursuing their own personal sense gratification. and they're being ruined by the influence of time. Pingala concluded, material love is simply a cheating process, as is being depicted here. And then one fellow is looking over his shoulder, and the other one's got a card pulling out of his back pocket. It's just cheater and the cheated. She thinks about what could have caused such detachment in her heart. The suffering of an unfortunate woman could not be the cause of this detachment. That's her reasoning. She realizes, Lord Vishnu must be pleased with me for some action of mine. Although I most stubbornly hope to enjoy the material world, detachment has arisen in my heart, and it is making me happy. Nice illustration. Now she becomes prayerful. With devotion, I accept the great help that the Lord has bestowed upon me. Giving up my sinful desires, I now take shelter of the Supreme Lord. Now it's the same street scene, it's the same Pingala, but the mood is different. It's a theoretical idea. It often doesn't play quite like this, but the steps that may lead to someone's becoming detached. Will you worship the Lord with the idea of getting deliverance? No. When the jiva sees the world devoured by time and becomes detached from all material enjoyment, at that time, Atma or Jiva is his own protection from samsara. It's a power that's bestowed upon the Jiva by the one who bestows power. Now I have this very nature. Thus, I have been delivered from samsara automatically. I will then worship the Lord in prema alone. That's, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur always has commentaries that are filled with rasa, or I say he's a rasika bhakta. So he sees everything through that lens. And his commentary is consistent with how he sees things, naturally. And it's not like that's the only way to see, but that's the way he sees. His bhakti up to the stage of prema is his aspiration. Or he's describing that's her aspiration. So there she is, with her arms raised, in the mood of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I am now completely satisfied. I have full faith in the Lord's mercy. I will maintain myself with whatever comes of its own accord. Very different lifestyle. I shall enjoy life with only the Lord, because he is the real source of love and happiness. Just reading this, I'm reminded of our discussion about Gangamata Goswamini when she was just a young girl, the daughter of a king, and the king was very enthusiastic to have his daughter marry a qualified prince, and through the agency of the prince, he would have a successor to his throne as the king. But she declined, saying, I don't want to marry anyone who is subject to death," which means she's going to stay unmarried, because anyone that's born is subject to death. It's just a law of nature. So I'm not going to marry. And her father was very disturbed, but he accepted the wish of his daughter, and he died without having a male heir to the throne. And there's different descriptions, but I shall enjoy life with only the Lord. So it's a vow of renunciation or a vow of detachment through reflection. So certainly a kind of detachment can come from contemplation on the circumstances of life. The real happiness isn't here. And so I don't want to continue pursuing happiness that's not here. I'm detached from that pursuit of happiness where there's no happiness. Now, where is one going to take shelter if you just say no to sense gratification? That's different isms arise. One of them is Buddhism, or another is impersonalism. And there are varieties under those headings. But if one has a proper understanding of what is there a place of shelter, then certainly it can be. No, there's no indication with Pingala nor with the Avadutta Brahmana. Did she hear this idea from someone? Did she hear the bhakti message from someone? Just take shelter of the Lord only. In one sense, we can understand with those that have that inspiration. It's like our younger generation devotees that appear in devotee families. That not every child born in a devotee family has spiritual aspirations, but those that do, it's to be understood. Previously, there was such an indication, and the task was not completed, and so they've taken birth in a devotee family, and the continuation where they left off is what they do this life. And then with that model, where's it going? Will this be the last? So will this be the last life? Depends upon the contemplations, and the guna and karma of that individual, and how they apply themselves to the bhakti principle. Certainly, that's the intention behind our great acharyas and the wish of the great acharyas for all of us to, in so many verses, in so many ways, and so much time Prabhupada invested in the teaching, regardless of akama sarvakama va moksha kama udaradi. So regardless of one's background, birth, etc., if one hears and has a resolute determination and intelligence to continue to drive it, and a good guide or teacher to keep you on track, make this lifetime your last one. Now that's a high aspiration, but it's the aspiration of those that are in contact with a qualified teacher with qualified teachings and the power to deliver it. Punarjanma na. So Pingala is in that place. The narrator of this is the Avadutta Brahmana to King Yadu. So the message is for King Yadu, and the message for that's Yadu and Avadutta Brahmana is simile for Uddhava, and for that means for us. Punarjanma na. And so that devotion, exclusive devotion to the personality guided, can carry us forward without getting distracted by so many distractions. Thus, her mind completely made up, Pingala cut off all her sinful desires to enjoy sex pleasure with lovers, and she became situated in perfect peace. Then she sat down on her bed. Story is almost narrated, almost complete. Little summary. This is now commentary. Material desire is undoubtedly the cause of the greatest unhappiness. Freedom from such desire is the cause for the greatest happiness. Therefore, completely cutting off her material desires, Pingala very happily went to sleep and lived happily there ever after. A nice way to end a story, right? Once upon a time, and she lived happily ever after. So that ends chapter 8, and we have just one more chapter. We have a number more of the gurus of the Avaduta Brahmana. And the title of the chapter here, Detachment from All That is Material. So he's going to conclude his teaching. The Brahmana said, because of attachment to things considered most dear, one becomes miserable. One who gives up material desires is learned and achieves unlimited happiness. Sounds like this is flip the switch from off to on. So the hawk. This is an interesting one. A hawk was carrying meat in its beak, but was attacked by another hawk who wanted the meat. In fear, it relinquished the meat and so was saved. Although the hawk's detachment was at first forced, it subsequently became actually detached and felt true happiness. That was quick. Lesson from the child. There's some children playing in the foreground. There's a sadhu walking down the path. In family life, the parents are always in anxiety about their home, children, reputation. But children are worry-free. Similarly, the Avaduta Brahmana is saying, I do not care for honor or dishonor. I sport and enjoy in the Atma and wander in this world like a child. Because that was one of the questions. You wander around like a little detached child. Why is that? In this world, two types of people are free from all anxiety. There's in the top, it's children. One who is a psychologically retarded or one who is ignorant person or a child, they have detachment. The other is a person who is beyond the three modes of material nature. So he's indicating he's in that category. Lesson 20. I'm getting close to finishing the 24. Once, a marriageable girl was alone in her house. At that time, a few men arrived at the house, specifically desiring to marry her. She received them with all hospitality. So it's a cultural point. A cultural point is those who are cultured people, when an unexpected guest comes to your home, there's a certain set of things that the cultured person is expected to do. Um, Receive the person warmly and with kind words, give them a place to sit, offer them some water or some refreshment, and provide some food. And before you even say, who are you, what are you doing at my door? What can I do for you? Just the hospitality of a cultured person. So she's a marriageable girl, and persons came with an intention. She didn't specifically respond to that intention. The girl went to a private place and began to make preparations so that the unexpected male guest could eat, as a cultured person would do. As she was husking the rice, the conch shell bracelets on her arms were colliding, making a loud noise. She's got a lot of bracelets on her arm. Look at that. The young girl feared that the men would consider her family to be poor because their daughter was busily engaged in the menial task of husking rice. So we don't have that problem. We don't have husked rice. We just have already husked rice. Being very intelligent, the shy girl broke the shell bracelets from her arms, leaving just 2 on each wrist. But they still collided. As the young girl continued to husk the rice, the 2 bracelets on each wrist continued to collide and make noise. Therefore, she took 1 bracelet off each arm, with only 1 left on each wrist. There was no more noise. Clever. So here's the modern situation. When many people live together in one place, there will undoubtedly be quarreling. Looks like a Norman Rockwell illustration. Poor grandmother over there in the corner. There's a Norman Rockwell painting. Exactly. Even if only 2 people live together, there will be frivolous conversation. Therefore, to avoid conflict, one should live alone. As we learn from the example of the bracelet of the young girl. Because the young girl mentioned in this story had no husband, she had to fulfill her duties as a host by removing her bracelets so that each wrist held 1 bracelet only. Commentary, mainly from Vishwanath. In the same way, the process of Gyan Yoga demands that the speculating sages live alone without any other association, because you have 2 opinions, you're going to have a quarrel. So live alone. Be a happy Gyani. Again, Vishwanath. Since Gyanis have dedicated their lives to speculation, there will undoubtedly be endless argument on technical points if many Gyanis live together. Therefore, to keep a peaceful atmosphere, they must live alone. So that's pretty solitary living, looks like, up in the mountains. On the other hand, a king's daughter who has been duly married to an aristocratic prince fulfills her duties to her husband by dressing herself with innumerable ornaments. No worry about the bracelets. Similarly, the goddess of devotion, Bhakti Devi, decorates herself with the innumerable ornaments of the Vaishnavas, who come together to relish the sweet sound of the holy name of the Lord. Of course, this is commentary. It's the BBT commentary source, not the Avadutta Brahmana commenting like this. How to live one's life and in a way that the Avadutta Brahman is training the king. Because pure Vaishnavas do not intimately associate with non-devotees, it may be said that they reside alone. Thus, they also fulfill the purpose of this verse. Because they are all devotees of Krishna, they may freely associate with one another for glorifying the Lord. So the purpose of coming together is Sankirtan, and without these coming together for Sankirtan or congregational glorification, then you do your sadhana in a peaceful and undisturbed way. Bhaktisiddhanta writes, the young girl in the story kept only one bracelet on each wrist so that there would be no noisy conflict among the bracelets. Similarly, one should give up the association of those who are not devoted to the Supreme Lord. This is the actual lesson to be learned. Thank you, Bhaktisiddhanta. So it's in one sense, it's a parable, not necessarily, an actual personality. It could be an actual personality being narrated by the Brahmana. Otherwise, it's a lesson to be learned from the behavior of this young lady. 21 lesson from the arrow maker. There's this fellow sitting, making arrows. He wants to have to be very straight. The arrow maker had a focused concentration on fashioning a perfectly straight arrow that he missed noticing the king and his retinue, complete with bugles and kettle drums. The king's noticing. He's not paying any attention to me. I've got this big parade following me with drums and cymbals and big commotion. And this fellow, the arrow maker, is not paying attention. Similarly, to successfully practice yoga, one's mind must become steady, detached, and fixed on the goal, the Supreme Lord. So this is an illustration of that. Down at the bottom is Sudra workers, and then there's meditators, and then there's Sankirtan devotees, and then there's the ultimate position for all, the congregational glorification of Krishna at the center. When the mind is fixed on the Supreme Lord, one is freed from the fuel of the modes of nature, including the mode of goodness. This way, the fire of material existence is extinguished. Bhava Mahadavagni. This is our BBT commentators making their comments on what the Avadhuta Brahmana is teaching. And so Sankirtan is the best means to extinguish the blazing fire of material existence that we know. This is the lesson to be learned by the example of the arrow maker, who was so absorbed in making a straight arrow. He was like the painting on the right, so absorbed in chanting of the holy name that one can be transcendental to the disturbance of the material world. There's guaranteed, without exception, disturbances in the material world. That's certified by Krishna. It's by design, and he's the designer, so he is a good designer. It's filled of distress, dukkhalayam, and whatever the distress is, or anything is temporary by design. And that's the place. So how do you conduct your affairs in a place where it's temporary and filled with distress? You don't look for happiness in the place that's filled with distress. What do? Throw your hands up in the air. You immerse yourself in transcendence. So that's the comparison with the arrow maker. So absorbed in making a straight arrow, or so absorbed in doing what your duty is, that your attention is just fixed on the performance of duty. Now, the transcendental position is that duty dedicated to the satisfaction of Krishna. That's the lesson. That's the transcendental lesson. We have just a few more, 22, 23, 24. Lesson from the serpent. Fearing an attack by humans, snakes live alone. Similarly, fearing the attack of materialistic persons, the Avadhuta has learned to live in seclusion, just like a snake which moves along, a sage moves about alone, distrusting the society without a mixed residence, always alert. He lives alone and goes unnoticed by the public. He has no companion and speaks little. So he's living the life like the snake lives their life. Spider, just two more. Lord Narayana's independent creation and annihilation of the universe can be compared to, and it is compared in the Bhagavatam, to the spider's creating and withdrawing his web. It's like an explicit comparison in the second canto. From the body of the spider comes some substance, or the web. It's the saliva or whatever makes it into a web. In contact with the air, it comes out, and with that, from his own body, he makes a spider, makes a web, and then creates the web. And the web, as one of the purposes of the web is like his home, and then another purpose of the web is to catch insects. And when the web catches insects, that's his meal. He goes and captures the insect. There's photographs of what happens when an insect lands in a web of a spider. Goes and it bites it and spins it around in so many ways, and he has his lunch. And then at the end, he withdraws the web. Vishwanath writes, this verse refers to Karnadakshai Vishnu, or Mahavishnu, lying in the causal ocean. There's the web. Just as from within himself the spider expands thread through his mouth, plays with it for some time, and eventually swallows it. Similarly, the Lord displays the network of cosmic manifestation, utilizes it according to his purpose, and eventually withdraws it completely within himself. So we're not the spider and we're not Mahavishnu, but it's a metaphor, it's a lesson to be learned from nature. And here's the last of the 24. Once a wasp forced a weaker insect to enter his hive and kept him trapped there. Guess who won? In great fear, the weak insect constantly meditated on his captor, and without giving up his body, he gradually achieved the same state of existence as the wasp. One achieves a state of existence according to one's constant concentration. If the living soul's thoughts are absorbed in the agents of his karma, unfortunately, he achieves the state, same state as his karma or as his meditation. Although we are conditioned souls, if we absorb our consciousness in Lord Krishna, we can become liberated even before giving up our present body, which is standard teaching. It may be not so well understood, but back home, back to Godhead isn't in the next life. Back home, back to Godhead is in the present life. If our intelligence becomes steady on the spiritual platform, then we can give up unnecessary consciousness of the external body. So now we're concluding. From all these spiritual masters, I have acquired great wisdom. Now please listen as I explain what I learned from my own body. So this is like Guru number 25 of the 24. So there's different structures in the body, the spine, nervous system, and the heart, and so forth and so on. My body is a guru since it teaches detachment and discrimination. The body supports creation and destruction, and its final result is suffering. By waiting to please his body, a person nourishes a wife, children, money, etc. That body, with its accumulated wealth, becomes devoid of the wealth of discrimination. After understanding this verse, one should merely offer, without attachment, the bare necessities to this guru, one's own body. Vishwanath concludes. One should keep one's body fit and working in the simplest possible way, and that is the sum and substance of his service to this so-called guru. Serve the body. At the end of life, the body is destroyed while enduring great difficulties. It, human body, creates karma, the seed of the next body. It is like a tree which produces seeds and dies, but the seeds continue the next life. Material enjoyments is available in all forms of life. Having attained, after many births, the rare human body, which is temporary but of value, the intelligent person should immediately strive for spiritual life as long as the body lives, because the body dies after being born. Conclusion. Having learned from my gurus, having developed detachment, and seeing through the realization of Paramatma, I wander the earth without attachment or false ego. So the fortunate king has met a great soul, and he's appreciating all of what he's heard. So here's a depiction of many of the lessons in one painting. You see there's the spider in his web, there's Pingala, there's many things. The pigeon, fish, deer, young girl, elephant, snake, moth, and the hawk are gurus teaching what to avoid. The bee, honey collector, and Pingala teach what to avoid and what to accept. Other items, such as the earth, teach what should be accepted. Interesting summary. Sridhar Swami. So there's a lot in this chapter, and with covering the lot that's in the chapter in 3 classes is summary only. The Lord said, so this is now back to Krishna is instructing Uddhava, and he's instructing what King Yadu heard from the Avaduta Brahmana. Having thus spoken to King Yadu, the wise Brahmana accepted obeisances and worship offered by the king. Pleased, he took permission and left exactly as he had come. The Lord concludes this chapter, this narration, as follows. O Uddhava, hearing the words of the Avaduta, the saintly king Yadu became free from all material attachment and began to see everything equally. That's the intention behind the Lord's plan, and sure enough, that's what happened. Because we heard in the beginning, because the receiver of the message is a perfectly self-realized prema bhakta who's anticipating meeting love and separation. So Krishna could interfere or intervene or change that outcome, But he doesn't. He decides, I've got some service, and here's the service, and the service is, something external, but something internal is, please go through this feeling of love and separation. It'll be further purification along the way, and we'll meet again later. Haribol. I'll bring you to me. They're eternally associated anyways. So there's the external feature of Krishna's Leela, inspired by, we heard this earlier, by his Yogamaya potency. He will invest, Krishna will invest with his Yogamaya potency the mood of Uddhava to feel separation, at the same time to, by his instruction, to feel the connection while feeling separation. So the realization of Uddhava has been expanded by the Lord's mercy. And one last thing. This evening, the topic is going to be along the same lines, very different type of narration, but along the same lines. That is to say, instruction by Kapila Dev to Devahuti how to achieve perfection in bhakti. And then Kapila Dev is going to say there's impurity in many people who claim to be practitioners of bhakti, and that's because they don't see everything equally. They see the Lord who they're worshiping. He specifically speaks of a deity. They worship the deity, but they don't see that which is the deity being present in the hearts of other living entities. In the same way, they ignore the Supreme Personality of Godhead situated in the heart of other living entities, and therefore they're pretenders, or they're imitation bhaktas. Then we'll hear. But so the goal that's being expressed here at the conclusion of this chapter is that one should come to that stage, seeing everything equally. And seeing everything equally doesn't mean it's a level playing field. It means everything equally means everything is under Krishna's supervision, Maya Jakshena Prakriti, and that Prakriti is his. So Prakriti moves according to his permission or sanction, or Anumanta. He sanctions and things happen. And a person who's connected to he from whom everything is being conducted, they're feeling very satisfied. And the converse is, one is not going to feel satisfied, whatever the configuration is. It's always, not right or not enough or something, and some dissatisfaction. Guaranteed. Always. So it still comes down to the same two. Be connected or be not connected. And move in the direction of being connected. So this parable-like connection with the Supreme is not. We had this discussion earlier. It's not just a make show of attachment, and it really is just material. It can be that, but it can also be, attachment to the Supreme. That's the intention behind this whole narration. That's the end of our little discussion. You want to start up right away?
Then it becomes its own protector or protection from
Yeah,
samsara. That's what he said.
Yeah, there's no protection from the Supreme Lord if one is independent. One thinks of oneself independent. Sense gratification is that mentality. I'm responsible for my own enjoyment, so you go and get it.
So, do we say that detachment is the protection?
No. Attachment to the Supreme is protection, and there's an artificial sense of I'm protected by detachment. But the artificial protected by detachment, tyagi, is also subject to the miseries of material existence, birth, death, disease, and old age. It's not a solution. It's an artificial sense. It looks like, it may even, for some period of time, feel like protection, not protection. Okay? Be in front of you.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. You mentioned in the class about Pingalas that there is nothing so clearly mentioned about how she took to bhakti. So I'm just curious to know what may gravitate someone to take to some ism if there is a substantial detachment. I'm just
Okay, I got the question.
yes.
I'm going to refer you. This question came up already, and it's expressed differently, but the same question. I'm going to refer you. I'll say, but you can read Madhurya Kandamani chapter 2 and chapter 3, but mainly in chapter 2. How does bhakti begin? What's the from where does it arise? It's not just misery, and so bhakti arises. So it's prior association, prior service, and making a connection with one who's carrying bhakti, and little drops of bhakti are deposited in the heart of that person over who knows what period of time, many lifetimes perhaps. And then accumulation, agyata sukriti in the sense of association with sadhus, not material sukriti. And accumulation over time, and it accumulates. And then with a little touch of not just misery or that which gives rise to detachment, but further association with sadhu. That's how bhakti arises in the heart of someone that where does all this come from? Like any one of us. That our little life story is a little different for each one of us. Some are born into it, and some, somewhere in their life, they came in contact. But to say yes instead of no or maybe, there's some prior accumulation of Agyata Sukriti. That's a teaching from Vishwanath and added to by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and that's our Acharya's rendering of how it's not just misery. It's everyone has it. Misery. Okay. Yes, behind you. You always have these nice questions.
Thank you.
I like both parts. It's always a nice question.
Thank you, Maharaj.
It's a little challenging sometimes too. Not designed to like stump the Swami kinds of questions, but it's nice. I like it.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So the lesson from the spider, I could not get it. It seemed like a piece of information or a fact, but I could not grab any lesson from that.
Should we go back and do it again?
Yes.
Would you like that? I would like that because you're raising it. Oops. So the spider, it's an implied metaphor. The spider is likened to Lord Narayan. From Lord Narayan, it's absolutely, totally independent. He creates and annihilates from his own potencies. And Narayan, the spider is being compared. Can be compared to the spider's creating and withdrawing his web. So, Vishwanath. This verse refers to Karna Dakshay Vishnu. So here's the lesson. Just as, so where does the web of the spider come from? It's from substances within. Now, Narayan doesn't require substances from within. He is. So, but and therefore, there's the analogy falls apart. But the lesson of the spider is, from his own body comes the web, and he spins the web through his mouth. Sometimes, for some time, he moves around on his web, and then eventually he withdraws the web. It came from him. He moves around on it. He uses the web to do stuff like capture insects and things. That's one of the functions. But Narayan is not, he captures people and then eats them or something. It's just, similarly, the Lord displays the network of cosmic manifestation, utilizes it according to his purpose, and eventually withdraws it completely within himself. So the spider and the web of the spider are being compared to Narayana. And I, the Avadutta Brahmana, have learned something from the spider. I've learned something about Narayana from the spider. And he is independent, absolutely independent. And from the independent source of everything comes everything. And it's manifest for some time, and then it's withdrawn after some time. And then life as we know it is that, the manifestation of the energies of Narayan that are extended and then maintained for some time and then withdrawn. And that's everything. So like the spider.
Thank you. I had second point. It's about detachment leading to happiness, and I was pondering upon it. It's a reflection, and if you desire, you can comment on it. I feel like when we are bestowed with resources and we share with the community, we do feel happy inside.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking, is detachment? That means that we have some degree of detachment to the resources we have been bestowed with.
Well,
so I was thinking,
you know the Ishopanishad verse, Isavasyamidam Sarvam. You familiar? Okay. So with that understanding, another way of saying the same thing is Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo. Krishna is the source of everything. So anything and everything that exists is his. So something may be given to me for some time. Let me acknowledge that it's not mine, it's his, and use it in part for my maintenance, and the rest it's for him and his purposes. And so that's the detachment, because it's not mine to begin with. I'm being maintained by the source of everything. Thank you very much. And you have given me more than what I require, so let me not just cling to it. So that's, and then at some point in time, it's all taken away.
yeah, I was arriving at the conclusion that detachment alone can lead to happiness, but hearing your comment, I feel it's not alone, because
That's right.
it's
Yeah, that's right. Detachment alone doesn't. It gives a temporary, same as the other conversation. It gives it the ashashvatam. It's limited and temporary. Dukkalayam ashashvatam. Whatever that buzz called happiness, limited. Not what real happiness is. Limited. A reflection of. And then it's gone. The happiness is gone. The whole circumstance completely changes, and here we are moving around in such a place, looking for happiness, expecting to find it. And there's nothing wrong with expecting, because it's natural for the soul. But if your lights are shut out, then you're not going to see the fallacy of searching for happiness in the temporary. Not there. And it's certainly going to end up in frustration because the happiness isn't met. Expectations that don't match reality is frustration. Always. Universally. And that's the nature of the place. There's nothing wrong with wanting happiness because it's our nature. And by the curtain of Maya, we don't see the source, and therefore we're looking for happiness apart from the source. That material life. The spiritual life is flip the switch. There's a source. And everything belongs to the source. So, and it's easy to articulate it, then it's another thing to experience, which was one of the comments that came in Jai Satchidananda's question yesterday. Experiencing that sense of connectedness is different than speaking about it or hearing stories about it. Then the actual experience is another level of evolution of consciousness. But one can lead to the other. That's what we're here for. Not just like become, Bhakti Shastri students and get an A in our exam and we say Haribol, but still not having the experience. I can't hear you.
There we go.
I heard the click.
My apologies. Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you sincerely for your classes. I haven't been able to be present for all of them, but I've been watching them online.
Okay.
So thank you. I had a question, and sorry if it's not worded as properly as I would have wanted to, but some thoughts to preface the question. Seeing that by hearing from the Avadhuta Brahmana about the 24 gurus, the king was able to see everything equally. And we also see that there's a verse earlier in the Srimad Bhagavatam that says that, and sorry, I don't know the verse itself, almost everything in our heart is cleared by listening to the Srimad Bhagavatam. I was wondering if you could further elaborate on the importance of listening and hearing from the right sources, and if you could also speak on the importance of reflecting on what we've heard in connection to our spiritual advancement.
That's a loaded question. Two parts. Say the two parts again one more time.
Yes. So
Simple.
yeah,
Simple.
seeing the, I was wondering if you could further speak about the importance of listening to the right sources.
Okay.
And the second part.
But you know the answer. I'll give a practical example. Once upon a time, I was a college kid a few years ago. And I got to the stage where I was searching for something other than stuff. My little personal phrase was 3 things. There's a higher reality beyond this. I in my heart of hearts, I have that conviction. 2, I don't know what it is. That's important, to know that you don't know. And 3 is I want to know. That was it. That was on your mark, get set, go. So searching, and at a certain stage, it went beyond Zen Buddhism and silent meditation because XYZ. It didn't match reality. And reality isn't, you do Zen meditation, nonstop for the rest of your life, and you're detached by that process of meditation. And then you do stuff and something else happens. So I got to the stage of looking for, I'll be responsive to your question, I hope. Mantra meditation. And when I was in college, there was like 6 popular mantras. And one of them was the Hare Krishna mantra. And so in the course of hearing the Hare Krishna mantra personally by practice, and then going to places where Hare Krishna mantra was chanted, one of those sources was a gentleman who was previously a Harvard University professor who dropped out of Harvard University and went to India and came back, Baba Ram Das. And he lived in Vermont, and so he was doing the college circuit, and he was chanting Hare Krishna. At one point in time, I went to visit his home in Vermont. He answered the door with his big beard and the whole thing. And I was asking him. There are 2 things. I was asking him, I like Mahamantra. I'm having a difficulty deciding between you and Srila Prabhupada, bluntly, this path and that path. And he was silent, and he closed his eyes and got mystical, and said, then he opened his eyes and said, you search within and you'll find the answer. Okay. So then, so he's doing the college circuit, and I was chanting Hare Krishna with the devotees and with him, and one of the things that he said was become one with the chant. And then he would chant. So I thought that sounds cool. What does it mean? Become one with the chant. But so I continued. And then at a certain point in time, he said, in a public forum, in the beginning, there's you and the chant. And you become one with the chant means you become the chant. And when I heard that, I said, forget it. Because here's a teacher with a teaching that says you become Krishna. Poor Krishna. No such thing. No such thing. So I checked out. Just like that. And I was torn between teachers and teachings, but the same mantra. And so the mantra fell flat because the teacher was teaching improperly. So therefore, hearing from the right source makes all the difference in the world. And then other examples could be elaborated upon, but that for me, that was a good one. It was a decision-making experience.
Thank you.
So then the second question?
Yeah, the second part was if you could, so kind of, like in the example given with the 24 gurus, by listening to him speaking about these 24 gurus, at least from what I gathered, was from the realization that he gained from that, as well as speaking to a pure devotee, he was able to.
He means King Yadu.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Sorry, I'm forgetting the name. Yeah, King Yadu. He became equally disposed and saw everything equally. So, is it that we're hearing from the right source and we're reflecting on these things that we're listening, or is it?
I made reference, yes, and I made reference to paralleling that statement with something you're going to hear this evening. Well, if you're around, if you come this evening, you'll hear it this evening, or online you can hear it. And it's from Canto 3, Chapter 27. Kapila speaking to Devahuti. The title of that chapter 27 is Explanation of Devotional Service. And in that chapter, one of the things that Kapila does right at the very beginning as he says, here's what bhakti is. It's pure bhakti. It's same as very similar to, language is different, Rupa Goswami's definition of bhakti, and bhakti is pure bhakti. Anyabhilasha shunyam, jnana karma janavratam. That's what bhakti isn't, then here's what bhakti is. So Kapila says something very similar. Language is different, similar. Unalloyed. Squeaky clean. Nothing but. And none of that other stuff along with it, because other stuff makes it mixed. So unalloyed. No alloy. Pure gold. No alloy. Pure gold. Pure bhakti. Shuddha bhakti. So that's his definition. Bhakti is pure. Then, in the course of the chapter, Kapila Dev says, commentary by Jiva Goswami and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he says, with anger. Because he doesn't like people say, I practice bhakti, but they don't. And that they don't is the conclusion of King Yadu. He was able to see the personality of Godhead within himself. So Kapila Dev says, there are persons who practice, they worship, he uses this language, they worship the deity, but it's just the deity. And then there's other entities who have the same, you could say, the expansion of the deity, Paramatma, in the heart of every living entity, and they just ignore the other living entities. It's just the deity. And he doesn't speak nicely about it. It's impersonation bhakti. It's not bhakti. It's pretense bhakti. So then, not acknowledging, then he takes it further and further. There's 4 stages, and it gets worse and worse and worse. From the seed comes, the rest. It becomes very nasty, including vilification of others that have the Supreme Lord within their heart. And it goes on under the name of bhakti, pretentious bhakti. So then he makes the problem and presents the cure. Here, this chapter, 3 chapters, 6, 7, 8, the Avadhuta Brahmana is outlining pure bhakti, or it's for the benefit. Krishna is recommending to hear the story to Uddhava because he's already in pure bhakti. And now here's how you can feel my presence, even I'm not present physically or palpably, or prakat, lila is withdrawn. But you can be with me. So the context is different. The precept is almost the same. See the Supreme Lord within. That's the conclusion of both. The Kapila's teaching is that. The Avadhuta Brahmana is teaching his teaching. King Yadu feels that.
Thank you, Maharaj.
The path is, it's bhakti. It's Shuddha bhakti. It means nothing but, and then when that nothing but, then it's all inclusive. Now that's elevated, and we're not there yet. That's okay. We're following a process that's meant to take us there. And this process of Shravanam Kirtanam is the main horse, or the main medium to move to that position, done properly.
Jai, thank you.
Okay. Way in the back. Way in the back. You got to hit that little magic button on the
Hare
side.
Krishna Maharaj.
There you go.
Thank you so much for the wonderful class. I don't know if you touched upon this, but when Uddhava met the gopis in Vrindavan, that was, he was already, he saw gopis' love for Krishna firsthand,
Yes.
which is the most perfect Krishna Bhakti that you can
Right.
get, right? And then Krishna had to still instruct Uddhava about detachment and renunciation. So I was,
No. He didn't have to. No. Pardon me. I'm interrupting. That's not what Krishna is doing.
okay.
He's not teaching him detachment. He's not teaching him detachment. He's teaching him attachment. Further deepening beyond, what may be visible when he's in his physical presence of Krishna, how that same attachment can be strengthened, even not in that physical presence. So it's, the punchline is what we just heard, seeing the super soul within, seeing the presence of the Lord within himself and all other beings. Now, you want to edit what your question is?
No, I was more curious, was Uddhava Gita spoken to us just like how Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, just for the sake of the common people, rather than really instructing Uddhava?
The contexts are very different. So in one case, in the case with Arjuna, Krishna purposely covered him to be influenced by seeing separation between Krishna's interest and his interest. And then he removed that covering, and and Arjuna's ready. And here, it's the dynamic is very different. That is, that this Krishna is going to leave. Uddhava wants to go with him. Please take me with you. I can't go with you unless you take me with you. Please take me with you. And in short, Krishna is indicating, I have some service for you, so you're going to stay behind, but you'll be with me this way. And because he's a Shuddha Bhakta with fully equipped, because it's explicit in commentary, he's not teaching Uddhava knowledge of detachment. He's already got it from Bhakti, Shuddha Bhakti. He's got it. But how then to go, one could say, to another layer or level, that even in Krishna's not being present with him, he would feel Krishna's being present with him. Not just by knowledge and detachment.
Thank you so much, Maharaj.
By a stage of bhakti, it doesn't require Krishna's physical presence. That doesn't mean without Krishna's physical presence or personal presence that the devotee says, no problem. Krishna, you can not be present before me. That's okay. I mean, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught that, but at the same time, he wanted Krishna's association. And he went mad searching for Krishna's association in the conclusion of his love and separation. So it's a setup for Uddhava to feel love and separation. A yet further stage of love, prema bhakti, and a further escalated stage of bhakti, prema bhakti.
Haribol. Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Okay. It's subtle, and it's not like, it takes a subtle intelligence to understand something that's a subtle lesson. But that's, Canto 11 comes after Canto 12 or Canto 10. So Krishna in Vrindavan, and Krishna, et cetera, Krishna's Leela. Now he's withdrawing his Leela. Now what? Uddhava, I'm leaving. And then comes, and then what? So they're eternal associates. They're not separated. There may be a Leela where it appears they're separated, but it's profound. It's subtle. Meditate it tonight. And then, the next couple of days, and see if, some light comes on, and, something like that. You have a microphone? Okay.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much for explaining all the 24 gurus very nicely, and giving it all this illustration and examples. So I have one reflection and one question.
Okay.
So particularly about this slide, and I heard from Canto 2 that just as the spider doesn't get entangled in its own web,
Right.
similarly, Lord, he creates this
Mm-hmm.
creation and he doesn't get entangled.
Right.
So that was the thought that came when I saw this picture. My question is in some slides later, and that is regarding the instruments of our karma. There is one slide which talks about that when we meditate upon the instruments of our karma, we inculcate those natures. So if you can show the slide.
I'm not zeroing in on which slide you want me to show.
It's later than
Should I give you the computer? You can find the slide. I don't know what you want.
maybe like a couple of slides if you can. I can do
Future
that.
going forward.
Yeah, forward. Yeah,
That's
last
it.
line. Last line. No, the line, next one. The last line. Last line.
Last line.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh-oh. Second scream is the best. Go ahead.
So this says that if the conditioned soul's thoughts are absorbed in the agent of his karma, unfortunately he achieves that state. So my understanding is when we meditate upon the agents who is causing us the trouble.
Yeah,
So
it's
how?
easy to do that. This person, or
Right.
they're the cause of all my misfortune. You get absorbed.
But unfortunately, he achieves that state. So what does this line mean?
It means you're yum yum vapi smaran pavam. That's what it means. You know the verse. So at the time of death, if I'm absorbed in the thought of my misery and the cause of my misery, I'll achieve that type of misery once again, because thoughts, absorption of thoughts carries one to the next destination. The same principle as that Bhagavad Gita verse. That's the meaning. You want to go further with it? Say what your doubt is.
My doubt is that do we get their nature? Let's say somebody is has a
Conditioned.
yeah.
Conditioned, not material. That's spiritual. Conditioned. Covering modes of nature we become conditioned by. And so if my meditation is this out there, that's the cause of my suffering. So I'm suffering. So I'm meditating on the cause of my suffering and I die. What's the destination?
Same thing.
Same, that's the principle. And where is there a situation in life where there isn't suffering? There's no such thing.
I think so.
So what's my option? I don't become dull. I become conscious. And then conscious of that which is the source of everything.
To see Krishna's hands.
Yeah. His intervene. It's for a devotee particularly. Krishna is being very kind. He's sending me this, misery. The agents of karma he's sending because he wants me to be more mindful of him. He's giving me that opportunity to switch the channel to material causation, to Krishna's kindness. And that's an option. One can direct emotion by higher intelligence. The mind can be directed. Even a strong emotion can be directed by higher intelligence. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
I had a reflection and a compliment to Prabhu's comment. Something that I was meditating on when you were sharing this was just reflecting on Vaishnav behavior And I saw this as a reminder of when we're really attached and ruminating on circumstances or
Mm.
people's behavior towards us. Like the story of the wasp kind of reminded me that, what you meditate on and hold on to will often be what you become. So you
Yeah.
end up becoming the thing that you may have originally condemned.
Mm.
And I thought that was such a good reminder. So I just wanted to share that was like something that I thought of when you were talking about this specific like lesson. Yeah.
So one can learn from wasps.
Yeah.
Way in the back. Way in the back. Back. You have something.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, one of the realization of Pingala was that let the thing come by the Lord's mercy, and let me just be dependent on them, on the Lord. So many times, if we try to do that, people may call us lazy or not trying to, or like you're just trying to show off, like they are trying to depend on Lord. So I want to understand, is that like because I'm pretending, or is it because like what is the reason behind that, Maharaj? Thank you.
What's the reason for your behavior or the reason for their criticism? The reason for their criticism is they're seeing a material way. You're a cop-out. You're lazy. You have no spine. The other pejoratives. And you smile. No. Is it possible that we don't have full realization? Probably we don't have full realization. But we try to move in the direction of, and at least, preliminary is just be tolerant. And then more than tolerant, a connection. So the tolerance means my mind doesn't get absorbed in retaliation. My mind doesn't get absorbed in the circumstance. Then where's the mind going to go? Depends on what your affinity is. Let me try to perceive and meditate upon the one who's behind everything. Here's a nice example. I mentioned this yesterday, I think. It's from Ramayana, and somebody remind me of the one, Shravan Kumar. You know who Shravan Kumar is? Okay. So Dasarath killed Shravan Kumar by mistake. So you know the history.
Yeah.
So when he heard the human voice, because he shot without seeing the target, and he heard a human voice. Oh no. So he went to where the Shravan Kumar was, and he was bleeding to death. Before he expired, Shravan Kumar made an appeal. Please take care of my father, my blind father and mother. I'm their eyes. And they can't, they're completely dependent. I was just getting water for them. To not just like take them the water instead, but take care of them. So then the boy died, and he picked up the boy in his arms and carried the boy to his father, placed the dead boy in the lap of his blind father, and, poured out his heart and explained what had happened. And the father was a Brahmana, and the Brahmana gave a Brahminical curse. As this happened to me, it'll happen to you. You'll die feeling separation from your son. And that's what happened. The curse of the Brahmana. Now, that's in Ramayana. Then Agni Purana, if my memory is right, the Brahmana began to consider, why did this happen? This misfortune came to me. Besides the blindness, my son has been killed. Why? And so because there's cause behind the effect. So he considered, according to Agni Purana, he considered two things, two possibilities. One, I saw a deity form of the Lord, and I saw the deity form of the Lord to be of stone, although the deity form is not stone, although there may be the appearance of stone or wood or metal. So that was an possible offense, and this is a reaction to that possible offense, the effect from that cause. Then the second, he considers in Agni Purana, maybe I offended a Vaishnava that had proper tilak and kuntimala and the markings of a Vaishnav, and I didn't respect them. I failed to respect, which is disrespect. This disrespect of a Vaishnav has a reaction. And that's the extent of the explanation given in Agni Purana. But misfortune comes from something that's back there. A learned person understands that. It's not standalone. It's not cruelty of the personality of Godhead. He's being harsh and cruel and mean, or the other way around. He's being just partial and being kind. Just so there's even in spiritual matters, certainly the causeless mercy of the Lord can come, but the causeless mercy of the Lord is bestowed upon one who is a qualified person, generally speaking. So what's our qualification to get causeless mercy? And that comes this question again: is how does bhakti begin? By prior association with one who's carrying bhakti, and the one who's carrying bhakti gives some mercy. The one who's not carrying bhakti, because they're enjoined by Scripture. A Madhyama is enjoined by Scripture. An innocent person, you give mercy. However, that's our preaching principle.
Thank you, Maharaj. I have a second part of this same question. So in the first question, I was asking about myself when I am trying that, and then in the
You
second,
are trying what?
I am trying to think that, okay, I will depend on the Lord as much as possible.
Okay.
And then another person was saying you are lazy or you are not doing your duty properly, something like that. But second part is, if I ask something to other person and they are trying to be dependent on the Lord, so how much should I try from my side that please do that for me? Or
Well, it's not for you. I mean, that's another thing. When asking of another, on whose behalf? So there's material and there's spiritual perspective on as the answer to that question: on whose behalf? So when you ask for something, an ideal devotional request is because this is the interest of the Supreme Lord, I'm asking.
Mhm.
Now, you don't have to say all that, but that the consciousness ideally is like that. Please take this book. Please chant the holy name. Please take some Mahaprasadam. Something. It's on behalf of.
thank you.
And that makes all the difference
Yeah.
for the receiver.
Yeah.
Your Krishna consciousness can dramatically impact the consciousness on a person on the other side. One with whom you're interacting. Makes a big difference. Big difference.
Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. The one story I liked was the one about the girl with the bangles.
Yeah?
Yeah, because I'm not sure if I have a question, but I found it interesting about the bangles, and I thought, well, first off, if a bunch of men came to my door, I don't think I'd let them in. I might faint. But what are you doing here? But at any rate, I found that very interesting about how when she had all the bangles, of course, it made the noise.
Yeah.
And so she took them off. So she just had one on each arm. Didn't make any noise.
Two on each arm.
One, two, yeah.
Yeah.
And then she took one off. So then she had
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
But the thing is, although when you have many people in your house, you know, the husband, the kids, the friends, the dogs, the cats, and it does get to be wild and crazy. But then when they all go away, you think, now what do I do? You know, I'm only washing my dishes. I'm only cleaning the floor by myself. You know, there's nobody to talk to. You have to call people up and say, are you going somewhere today? Can, can I come with you? You know, things like that. So, hello?
There we go.
Yeah. Sometimes one could get depressed or a little sad because, you know, in order to do something with someone, you have to call them up. They're not there. There's nobody there to turn around and say, hey, did you see that? You know, or what? So you've got your dichotomy. Is that what it would be?
Okay.
You've got all these people and things here. Yeah, it's stressful, but it can be fun. And then you have nobody. And it could be
That's stressful too.
stressful too. Yeah. So I'm not sure that I have a question, but I guess how could one not be depressed or
Oh,
sad?
because you're not alone.
Huh?
The answer is a Krishna conscious answer.
Hmm.
Who's alone? What does alone mean? There's no such thing.
Okay. Why? Because Krishna's always there?
Yeah. He's the observer. He's the witness. Upadrashta Anumanta. You know the Sanskrit?
No.
He's the witness. Upadrashta means to see, and Anumanta, he permits.
So he permits us to see.
He permits you to do anything, to, you know, cough, walk across the floor, you know, laugh and cry and, you know, do whatever you do. He has to say, okay. You know, to digest your food, you know, everything. He's permits. And then he sees and he permits. Everything in the material field, that's up those two functions. That's super soul in the heart. He does those two functions. So you're not alone.
Okay.
But, you know, that's higher consciousness.
Yeah.
But, you know, welcome to life.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Pass the microphone up front, and this is our last one. It's 140. There we go.
Not a question. Kind of comment on the exchange that occurred about the agents of one's karma, etc. In that conversation and your reply, I was kind of reminded of His Grace Bhurijan Prabhu's. I was reminded of His Grace Bhurijan Prabhu's wonderful book on japa, where he talks about the nature of the mind. And he said, one must understand, I'm paraphrasing, one must understand that like the heart expands when it hears something favorable about oneself, he said, we must be aware that the heart equally expands or contracts to a greater depth when it hears something negative. So we should be very mindful of our state of absorption on unfavorable events as well. I thought that was a very nice statement. And then I was thinking of His Grace Vaisheshika Maharaj's, simple aphorism where attention goes, energy flows. So, I think just have to be kind of thinking about that when we're doing devotional activities. Anyways, brief comment, that's all.
Please comment. Here, Haribol.
No, I said brief comment. Brief comment.
Brief comment.
I just made a brief comment, that's all.
Okay. So we're going to end. And it's time for what's next. What's next? Prasadam. Okay. I made a request at the very beginning. Those who are leading and participating in Kirtan, Could you resume kirtan while we're, getting ourselves oriented for prashadam and stuff? Okay. And who's our kirtan? Here she comes. You going to be the singer? And I have a little Mahaprasadam container. So while the kirtan begins and they're getting the kitchen scene ready, I'm going to do the prasadam thing.